Hi everybody, this is Janice and welcome to the Science of Spirit. Today I'm going to talk about past life regression. Have you ever wondered what it's like to have a past life regression? It's really kind of an interesting experience. It's really a unique experience. It can be done for a number of reasons. You can come in just to know and explore past lives that you had, more from perhaps a historical perspective, but mainly it can be used, especially with past life therapy, as a way to fix issues that you currently have, be it physical or emotional, anything that's causing problems with what you are trying to accomplish in this life. Sometimes it's something stemming from a past life, and sometimes it's just from the past and early childhood trauma from this life. So finding out where the problem originated, then you can take steps to change it. And that's where hypnosis comes in. Generally, how it works is you are put into a trance state, usually a medium trance state, and then you're gently guided back to a past life memory. And the way this is done, at least the way I have been taught to do this, as we will start out using something called neuromuscular response, which is a form of muscle testing, but a very accurate form of muscle testing. And this is done before we even start the hypnosis at all. This is done prior to that. So this form of muscle testing was developed by Dr. Hugh Harmon, PhD. He is one of my teachers. And muscle testing was authenticated by biofeedback in research with EEG machines, which measure electrical impulses created by the brain. With these machines, it became possible to scientifically observe the effect of thought on the body. And in order for you to understand this a little better, I'm going to read from Dr. Harmon's book called Neuromuscular Response. Okay. Muscle testing and other modalities based on muscle testing, such as applied kinesiology, were being used by healers in many fields. Healers in all fields quickly realized their significance. By using a muscle of the body, the connection between the mind and the body could be observed and demonstrated, as those who work with the body and mind soon discovered. It was possible to use this connection to uncover subconscious thoughts and beliefs. Further research led to the recognition that other levels of thoughts and beliefs and knowledge are also accessible through muscle testing. So, with muscle testing, it is possible to locate the source, origin, and causes of a condition or a behavior. The origin or the cause can be thought, belief, emotions, stress, behavior, diet, conditioned response, environmental factors including allergens and viruses, etc. You can also determine by testing the higher self response, the fastest and most effective method of getting rid of the block or resistance, as well as the fastest or most effective method of achieving a goal. So for those who do not know what the higher self is, it is the part of your spirit that stays outside of the body. You have a higher self and basically a lower self. It's also known as sometimes the superconscious. So with using neuromuscular response, you can tap into this higher self. You can tap into this all-knowing part of you and find answers to basically anything you want to know. Now, these are just yes or no answers to questions. And then through hypnosis, we can ask more in-depth questions of your higher self and get complete answers from you, from your knowing self. And also the goal with hypnosis is to keep the conscious or analytical mind out of the way so that you are basically a clear channel, which is very important. Because it's that analytical mind that starts messing with stuff and thinks, oh, I know this, or oh, this is probably yes or no. And you want that out of the way. So with past life therapy, NMR is really crucial because it enables you to find out from your higher self a particular past life that is affecting you in this life. So then you can be regressed and find out what the issues were. And basically what is done is you need to imprint a different view of the trauma that happened into your subconscious, which is the part that carries out programs and beliefs. And then once that is done, providing that's all there was and there wasn't something else, because sometimes this can be like layers of an onion, and sometimes it can just be, a one-shot deal. But then you can give that part of yourself, be it an inner child or a past life, a different view of what actually happened. Basically putting that part of the person at peace, or that part of your spirit at peace. And then that effectively will change a condition or a belief about something. An example of this was an actual past life regression that I had, where I was regressed back to a past life to a little boy in Greece who had basically fallen and broken his back. And he really wanted to be an athlete. He was very athletic, and that's what he wanted to do. So when he broke his back, that pretty much took care of him being an athlete. It wasn't going to happen, and he was very upset about this. And he felt most of his life that he was kind of less than because he was disabled, and he became an herbalist and ended up helping a lot of people with that, but was never really at peace with what had happened. So what needed to happen during the hypnotic session was to give that entity in that past life a different view of what happened. So even though things didn't go the way he had hoped they would, by breaking his back, put him on a different path, one that was more introspective, one that was more spiritual, one that involved helping to heal other people. And once that was brought up in hypnosis, a different way of looking at it and how his spirit wanted him to go in a different direction, wanted to be more of a spiritual direction rather than an athlete, that changed his thoughts. And he was able to release those ideas of being unworthy. And maybe being an athlete really wasn't his best path in that lifetime. So that's just one example. Another example of this I want to give is something that happened to a friend of mine who was born with a missing toenail on one toe. And she always wanted to know why it was that she didn't have this toenail, because she didn't actually do anything to it in this life. She was just born that way. So it turns out when she was regressed to a past life, where she was a young woman who was pregnant, and she was with her husband, and they were going to go out for a ride and go for a picnic. So she had this inner feeling that she shouldn't go and that it wasn't a good idea, but she wanted to go anyway, and she didn't want to disappoint her husband too. So at some point, the horse that she was on reared and fell over backwards and landed on her. And she had a lot of internal injuries. And because of this, one of those injuries was somehow her toenail was taken off by the horse. And so when her higher self was asked why she carried this through in this life, at least the toenail part of it, it was to remind her to use her intuition. What she kind of ignored it back then because she actually died of her injuries back then. And it was a fairly happy life she ended sooner than it should have. So once that was found out, she was able to grow a toenail again. I think it fell off periodically, but it would at least grow in where she had no toenail at all before being regressed to that life. So anyway, I thought that was kind of fascinating. Another past life I was regressed to was back in the Roman times as a rabbi named Laurent. And I will probably put up some more of his channeling because I have channeled him directly. Kind of an interesting guy. And that particular lifetime, the lesson was, do not be so defiant. Because in this particular Essene community, they were really very much oppressed by the Romans in that time. And that life ended by being killed by a Roman soldier. And then I believe, interestingly enough, the next life I had was a Roman soldier. And so the lesson there was learning not to be so defiant. Defiance is basically what got the rabbi killed. Although I don't know how much of that really applied to me as far as the defiance goes in this life, since that lesson was actually learned back then. It was interesting to see what I had, gained from that life, what I had learned from that life. So sometimes you can just go back to a past life and find interesting things, find out what the lesson was. Was it learned or was it carried forward? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So if you just, want to be regressed to find out something interesting, an interesting past life, it isn't necessary to use the neuromuscular response, but it's certainly a really handy thing to use, because then you can ask, well, is it to my highest good to be regressed back to this life? Because oftentimes you ask your higher self, is it, at this time something I should do? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Sometimes you're not ready for it. Sometimes it takes somebody else to help you with it. Because I personally am a past life regressionist, but not a past life therapist as of yet. So anything deeper could possibly have to have a hypnotherapist or past life therapist to take care of it. Now, if you're really just more interested in asking your higher self questions without being regressed, that can be done too, but regressing somebody first is kind of nice, because then you're in a deeper trance state after first doing a past life regression and then going ahead and asking your higher self questions after that. And it's very enlightening and helpful to find out, what your higher self has to say. It's really fascinating. Now, I can do channeling, so I channel my higher self. But if you don't do that, this is a great way to find out what your higher self is wanting you to know. Or other parts of your body or your subconscious. You can basically talk to anything you want. So, and it makes a huge impact. Like, are you on the right path? These are questions you can ask. Are you on the right path? Are there any big decisions that you could have, that could have a huge impact in the future of, direction of your life? Or finding your life's purpose. You can find answers to health questions. You can find out what areas of your body may need healing. Or really anything you want to know. It can really be an amazing experience. Now, at some point here, I'm going to be interviewing Pamela Chilton, who is a clinical hypnotherapist and one of my teachers. And I'll have her talk about past lives, because she's got a lot of interesting information and she's just a wealth of knowledge. We'll also interview probably Dr. Hugh Harmon as well, but I thought I would do them separately because they both have just a lot of phenomenal information and stories and interesting things that happen with clients in the past and to themselves as well. I hope this gives you some kind of an idea of what it's like to have a past life regression. That's the technique that I will be using. And when we talk with Dr. Harmon and Pamela Chilton, we'll ask some really in-depth questions, some fascinating things, like anything that you would want to know about spirit and how the mind works and hypnosis. They know about it. Plus, as I've said in a prior podcast, Dr. Harmon is an unconscious channel, and Pamela Chilton is also a channel, and they have channeled higher spirit, their higher selves, other people's higher selves, all kinds of entities, and gotten a lot of really great information. It's similar to what Dolores Cannon was doing with her clients, I believe, only this is a little more controlled because you're asking whatever it is you want to know about. You know who you're talking to. You're not at the mercy of, well, maybe you're talking to somebody's higher self, maybe somebody else. So this is far more accurate. Not that I'm trashing Dolores Cannon at all. I think that she did a phenomenal job, and I think that most of her information was pretty spot on. But this I know to be very accurate. So that should be a really interesting interview, and I will let you know when that is going to happen. So once again, this is JANICE VOELKER for The Science of Spirit. If you are listening on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and be sure to click the bell to know when I'm going to upload again. And also, these podcasts are available on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and Spotify. So once again, thank you for listening.